Most people have no idea how much power their pension actually holds, or how one wrong choice can cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars and decades of their security. So, you know that feeling when you see someone just totally frozen by decision? Like, I watched my friend Rick literally sit in his car for 45 minutes in his driveway the day before he was supposed to sign his pension papers. Just sitting there. And honestly, I get it. He was terrified he was about to make this $250,000 mistake, and nobody, would tell him which choice was actually right. Should he take the monthly check? Should he roll it all into an IRA? I mean, here's the thing that nobody talks about. If you're retiring with a pension in the US, you're facing one of the biggest financial decisions of your life. And most people, they're making it with maybe 10% of the information that they actually need. And it's not even your fault, you know? The whole system is basically designed to confuse you. I'm Jason, by the way. I retired when I was 39, and now I spend my time studying all this retirement stuff because honestly, I've seen way too many people just walk into these decisions completely blind. And today, I really want to walk you through what actually happens when you're retiring with a pension. So I'm going to use Rick's story because his journey, it's probably a lot like yours. So by the end of this, you're going to understand something that most financial advisors don't even bother talking about. How your pension is actually worth way more than you think it is, and why that safe choice, well, it might actually be putting your entire retirement at risk. So let's get into it. Okay, so my friend Rick, he worked for the state for 32 years. Solid guy, never flashy or anything. And when he hit 62, he got the letter. You know, the one that every pension holder gets. It basically said, like, choose between $480,000 as a lump sum or $2,900 a month for the rest of your life with survivor benefits for his wife, Susan. And Rick did what most people do. He started Googling, right? And he also talked to his brother-in-law, who supposedly is good with money. He even paid for one of those retirement seminars at the local Holiday Inn. And everyone, and I mean everyone, they said the exact same thing. Take the lump sum, invest it. You can beat that return easily. But here's what nobody explained to Rick. And honestly, what I need you to understand right now. Your pension isn't just like another investment account. It's actually something way more valuable and way more rare. See, you can think of it this way. A pension is basically, well, it's a bond, right? But not just any bond. It's a bond backed by your employer and by the US government through something called the PBGC, which protects up to $7,400 a month. I mean, that's better protection than almost any corporate bond that you could actually go out and buy. Real quick, if you're here because you want straight talk about retirement without all the fluff and the sales pitches, go ahead and subscribe. I'm putting out videos every week breaking down the stuff that nobody else really wants to tell you about. So, back to Rick. When we sat down and actually ran his numbers, and I'm not talking about the back of the napkin kind of stuff, I mean like real analysis, we discovered something that honestly blew his mind. His pension at $2,900 a month, that's $34,800 a year, right? If you wanted to replicate that income safely using something like the 4% rule, you need like $870,000 in bonds. And then Rick's Social Security was projected at about $2,100 a month, and Susan would get another $1,600. So that's another $44,400 a year combined. So using that math, that's nearly $1 million in bond equivalent value. Between his pension and Social Security combined, Rick and Susan basically had the equivalent of close to $2 million in government-backed bonds already. They just couldn't see it because, well, because it wasn't sitting in an account somewhere. It was structured for future income. See, most people completely miss this. They're literally sitting on this massive pile of bond-like assets, and they have no idea. So Rick's situation was pretty typical, actually. His fixed expenses and the stuff that doesn't really change, like the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, car payment, that came to around $68,000 a year. And when we added up his pension at $34,800 plus their combined Social Security about $44,400, that's $79,200 annually. His needs are more than covered with guaranteed income already. Now, stay with me here, because in a few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happened when Rick almost made the wrong choice, and why the math that seems obvious, well, it's actually backwards. And this is where most people get it totally wrong. So Rick was leaning towards taking the lump sum, right? His thinking was that, well, I can invest the $480,000, get 8% return, maybe even more, and I'll be set. Plus, then I can leave something to the kids. And that does sound reasonable, doesn't it? But here's what he discovered when he stress tested both scenarios using Monte Carlo simulations. Basically running thousands of different market scenarios over 30 years to see how often the money actually lasts until age 95. And this is the stuff that made Rick's hand shake when he saw it. If Rick took the monthly pension, his retirement plan had a 97% probability of success. 97%. So because his basic needs, the non-negotiable stuff, are covered by guaranteed income, that would literally never run out. Now, on the other hand, if he took the lump sum and invested it, that dropped to 88%. I mean, that's still not terrible, but we're talking about a 9-point swing in success rate for his entire retirement. But Rick's situation gets even heavier. When he ran the numbers for what happens if Rick or Susan needs long-term care, because, well, nobody wants to talk about that, but on this channel we have to. The pension scenario maintained a 79% success rate. The lump sum scenario, it crashed to 42%. So the reason the pension performs so much better isn't magic or anything. It's about matching. See, when your fixed expenses are covered by fixed income, pension, Social Security, maybe an annuity, you built a floor under your retirement that can't collapse. The stock market can crash, real estate can tank, crypto could evaporate. It doesn't matter. Your lights will stay on, your mortgage gets paid, and you can still eat. Quick question for you guys, and drop your answer in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious. If you're facing this decision, what scares you more? Taking the monthly pension and wondering if you're leaving money on the table? Or taking the lump sum and worrying you might outlive it? Let me know below. Alright, here's where it gets really powerful actually. Once Rick understood this, it changed how he could invest the money that he did have. His 401k, his brokerage account, that money didn't have to be conservative anymore, because it wasn't covering his needs. It was covering his wants. Travel, nice dinners, helping the grandkids, whatever. So he could actually get more aggressive with those accounts. And Rick ended up going about 80% stocks with his other investments because his foundation was rock solid at that point. Now, Rick was 62 with no major health issues and, well, 30 plus years of potential retirement ahead. Your situation might call for something different. But the principle remains. When your floor is secure, you can afford to take calculated risk with your growth money. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Rick retired at 62, but his full pension didn't kick in until 65. He decided to wait on Social Security until 67 to get a higher benefit. And those years in between stopping work and starting full benefits, I call that the golden window. And it's where you can do some incredibly smart things if you know what you're doing. In Rick's case, he used his 401k to bridge those 3 years. He pulled just enough to cover expenses, and with the rest, Roth conversions. And what that means is he paid taxes now at a lower rate, converted that money to a Roth IRA, and now it grows tax-free forever. So once his pension and Social Security kicked in, his income and his tax rate went up, so that window closed. But he had already repositioned a big chunk of his savings to grow tax-free. This is the kind of move that saves people tens of thousands in taxes or retirement. But you can only do it if you understand the sequencing, you know? Okay, so I can remember there was this one night, about a week before Rick had to make his final decision, when his wife Susan called me. And she was worried because Rick wasn't sleeping. He kept running the numbers, second-guessing everything. And here's what was eating him. The pension had two options. Single life, which paid the full $2,900 a month, but would disappear completely when Rick died. Or joint survivor, which paid less per month, but would keep paying Susan after Rick was gone. Rick was thinking about that extra money each month. Thinking about, well, how they could use it, how it adds up over the years. And part of him was thinking, Heck, I'm healthy. I might even outlive Susan. So why give up that money? But when we looked at what would happen to Susan if Rick died first with no survivor benefit, man, it was brutal. Susan's Social Security alone, about $1,600 a month, wouldn't come close to covering her $68,000 in fixed expenses. She'd have $19,200 a year in guaranteed income, trying to cover $68,000 in expenses. She'd have to pull nearly $50,000 a year from savings during what's likely to be the most difficult time of her life emotionally. And if she needed care, well, the plan just completely fell apart. Rick chose the joint survivor option. He told me later that it wasn't even about the math, really. It was about being able to sleep at night, knowing that Susan would be okay no matter what. Now, one thing I didn't mention yet. If Rick took that lump sum and rolled it into an IRA, whatever's left when he dies goes to Susan and eventually the kids. And with the pension, once they're both gone, it's done. Nothing left. And for some people, that legacy piece matters a lot. But for Rick, the guaranteed income mattered much more. But you need to know that that trade-off exists. Okay, so if you're facing this decision, here's what you need to know. First, separate your expenses into two categories, fixed and flexible. Fixed is the stuff that doesn't change. We're talking housing, utilities, insurance, basic food, transportation. Flexible is everything else. Travel, entertainment, dining out, hobbies, gifts. Most people never do this. They just look at their total spending and try to make everything fit. But that's not how you build a secure retirement. Second, add up all your guaranteed income. Pension, Social Security, any annuities. So that's your floor. And if that floor covers 80% or more of your fixed expenses, you're in a really strong position. Third, understand that your pension and Social Security are basically, well, they're bonds. Massive government-backed bonds that you can't see in your portfolio that are worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions. Once you see this, it changes everything about how you invest the rest of your money. Here's what I see all the time in the retirement community. And honestly, it drives me crazy. People with huge pensions keeping their 401ks in conservative, balanced funds. They're already bond heavy from their guaranteed income, and then they're piling more bonds and conservative investments on top. They're solving a problem that they don't even have. Or worse, they ignore inflation completely. Now, Rick's pension, no cost of living adjustment. Now, that's pretty common in private sector pensions, but less so in government pensions. If yours does have a COLA, that changes everything because you're protected against inflation. But Rick's doesn't, which means that every year, inflation eats a little more of his purchasing power. So that perfect match that he has today gets a little less perfect every year. Knowing this, he built that into his plan. His more aggressive portfolio is partly designed to grow enough to offset the inflation erosion on his pension. But if he'd never thought about it, he would have woken up 10 years from now wondering why his money wasn't going as far. So here's where Rick ended up. He took the monthly pension with joint survivor protection. He bridged the gap from 62 to 65 with his 401k and did Roth conversions along the way. He invested his remaining savings more aggressively because his foundation was secure. And most importantly, he stopped lying awake at night wondering if he'd made the wrong call. And the last time that I talked to Rick, he told me something that I'll never forget. He said, I spent 32 years working for that pension. I'm not going to spend the first 32 days of retirement wondering if I should have taken the lump sum. If you're in Rick's position, or you will be soon, the most important thing you can do is map out your fixed expenses and see how your guaranteed income stacks up. Don't let anyone pressure you into a decision because of market returns or what someone else did. Your situation is yours. And look, I know this is complex. These are some of the biggest financial decisions that you'll ever make. If you found this helpful, share it with someone who's facing the same crossroads. They'll thank you for it. Ready for more financial clarity? Watch this next. I'll see you in the next one.